What's good? Hey, what's good?
What's up, buddy?
Yo, oh my God. Wait, girl, you smelly? Is that who I think it is?
You smelly?
That is my dude. That's the guy I work. So I used to work at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
That's like one of the homies from when I worked at Whole Foods.
Hell yeah.
The Instagram live. Yo, dude. Sean Mercado.
I haven't seen you in so long, dude.
Yeah, it's been like 10 years maybe.
Yeah. Like a full decade.
A full decade.
Hell yeah, man. How have you been?
Yo, I've been through a lot, but, I have no regrets.
Hell yeah.
I feel like all the crazy stuff, I mean, I'm sure you got stories too. 10 years is a lot of stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
Some stuff happened that, made me sad. Some stuff made me laugh. Some stuff made me cry. But I feel like it all like builds the character. And
yeah, man.
Even like the really traumatic, shitty stuff, like all of it can get channeled back into like music production. And then you're at the party and it's like, yo, let's go.
Yeah, exactly, man. Hell yeah. We just evolve, keep going through and we evolving. We keep grinding.
Yeah, you got to keep grinding.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time. Back since the Merc days when you were my mentor and I was sitting there trying to work in Logic when you were working in Reason.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's so old school.
Yeah, I know. I've been in Ableton for so long now.
Yeah, me too. I'm in Ableton
where
also.
it's at.
It's just so powerful. I still love producing in Reason. I feel like Reason it was the first I learned on because it was when I went to Pyramind homies. Ableton wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
It was more of like a DJ software.
Yeah. Performance.
And then at some point it just got hella OG and became like this monster DAW that like every EDM producer uses.
Yep. I know. Everyone uses it now. Happy hump day. Ayo. Happy hump day.
Ayo. So you've been making a lot of house music and DJing and like making some waves in the scene. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm still chipping away. Obviously, the Shadows thing is a new thing since we last like connected. So I've been doing that for the past like probably 4 years. And yeah, just tons of house music. I'm trying to like find the balance between bass house and tech house and just like live in there. I like that space.
It sounds like you'd be really popular in Los Angeles.
I was living there for a while.
How was it?
Honestly, I moved there like right when COVID started, so it was not great.
No.
Yeah. And I was living in Hollywood, and Hollywood is pretty like wild. It's a crazy place. So it was fun. It was a cool time, but I'm living in the mountains now. I wanted to like build a studio and be in like a beautiful place in nature and just create and be able to make as much noise as I want. And just, then I can, travel for shows and leave town when I need to.
You're close enough to an airport?
I mean, it's a decent drive to like Sacramento airport. It's like an hour and a half, but I mean, I don't mind it. It's worth it to me.
Yeah.
I'm making the trip to San Diego this weekend. I'm playing with Mala on Friday.
Ooh, that's sick. Mala goes hard on the house.
Yeah. I've actually played a couple. I played 2 or 3 shows with him last year.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last year or two. And they've been crazy. And so they hit me up to play at Nova, which is that new Insomniac club in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be crazy. I mean, pretty much all his shows sell out. It's going to be sweet. And I'm direct support, so I get to play right
So
before
there's a lot of eyes on you. That's great.
Lots of eyes. And I get to try out a bunch of new music. I've been working my ass off. So I'm excited.
So you're going to play out new music that you've been producing and working on. and test it out in the crowd, and you get to see like how they react.
Yep.
And if they go off, like, okay, this was a banger, maybe I should release it. And if it kind of flops, you're like, ooh, maybe I need to go back.
Yeah, and then you mix out of it super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. But, I would love to come see you play sometime. It's been like over 10 years since I've seen you DJ, but it's always fun.
Yeah. I know. Man.
The SF scene has changed. I mean, you probably know I recently like poked my head back in because, I used to be like a psytrance DJ. So I had I saw a psytrance party somewhere like recently, and San Francisco was like, oh wow, this is still going on.
Yeah.
But it's like it's not nearly like how it was. I don't know if you remember like the Kelly's Mission Rock days and SF.
Yeah.
That era, like, was that the 2000s maybe? That was like almost the 2010s.
Yep.
That, man, raving back then was crazy different.
Does your Social Kid family know about your old days, your Frost Raven days?
They're starting to learn about it like in the past like couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Frost Raven, I'm like, dude. I've got some fans. Social Kids has gotten pretty, I mean, not as big as K Theory, but big enough where like there's fans.
Yeah.
And they all know me as like this mid-tempo guy. And I remember when you first showed me Rez in like 2015, you were like, you should check out this bro. He's making mid-tempo like you.
Dude, I found her SoundCloud profile and she had like maybe 1,000 followers.
Yep.
And I was like, oh dude, like this stuff's pretty cool. And I remember sending it to you. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. That's crazy. And now she's like a household name.
Yeah, she's huge.
Huge, like blown up. It's like that Deadmau5 effect.
Yeah.
Deadmau5 did it to Skrillex.
Yep.
Skrillex is bigger than Deadmau5, and Rez might be bigger than Deadmau5 now.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But I think San Francisco suffered a lot from like COVID and that whole like change of lifestyle. I think things are finally coming back. I don't know if like we could ever have like an EPR nowadays.
Yeah.
But man, those were some good times. People don't know. They don't know like, and there's like social media no one recorded it. Yeah. So it's just like permanently locked in our memories.
Which is probably a good thing. that those parties got pretty wild. I remember there's that one point where we were doing EPR on Wednesdays. We were doing Torque at Ruby Sky on Thursdays.
Yeah.
We were doing, remember Nightlight Riot on Saturdays. So it was like 3-4 days a week. We were throwing events. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. It was a lot of fun though.
It was very fun. Yeah, it taught me a lot. It definitely taught me a lot just about different parts of the industry, which is good.
And then we got to meet a lot of like DJs.
Yeah, that was cool. We were doing like, I remember making runs to go to the airport to pick people up. Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's like a huge part of me getting on Nightbase when I started shdws was because Benny from Jack Beats and Aaron AC Slater remembered me from EPR, and we started talking. I played a show together with Benny, and I just gave him a flash drive with a bunch of music on it. I was like, oh, if you have a chance to like listen, cool. If not, it's all good. Then he hit me up and he was like, hey, like a week later, he's like, yo, can I play these at EDC in Vegas? I was like, yeah, for sure. And then he played them, and then he gave them to AC Slater, and then they kind of made the connection that I was like from the EPR and like Ruby Sky days. And then that kind of like, I really feel like that kind of like helped me get on Nightbase.
Yeah,
crazy.
I would say that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
A lot of these like connections that we make, that's like why I think it's an old saying that, you should always, be polite and pleasant because you never know who you're talking to.
Or what it's going to turn into.
Yeah. You never freaking know. And that is the stuff that like turns, that like, makes careers usually.
Yeah.
That's how Skrillex did it. I mean, he used his like because he was already famous as like a rock artist
from First
but
Left.
He used that like fame probably to maneuver him into a position where he can meet up with Deadmau5 and then just gave him a USB. Deadmau5 had no idea who he was. But like, and that's.
I remember seeing him in SF in like a tiny room at Wobbleland.
Oh yeah.
At the Sound Factory. Remember that place?
I think we like met him together.
Yeah.
He, like, introduced himself to everyone.
Yeah.
Man, what a great, oh my God,
playing in like a side room for probably like 30 people.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It's always good to have USBs on you. If I were to give some advice,
I bring them to every show I go to.
You bring them, you should like bring like it's like a promo USB to every show. And then maybe like a DJ USB in case like someone asks you to like B2B.
Yeah.
I don't really have that one on me. But I usually have the promo one that I'm like ready to like give away.
Yeah.
I think that, but like, because a lot of people I feel nowadays they're really engrossed with like the TikTok culture and like Instagram reel, which, you know, do really well. Like if you know how to make a good reel that like has your face in it or you're somehow like showcasing your personality, you'll do really well on those reels. But there's something to be said, like the old school classic of like getting in someone's face and like in the physical world and handing them like a physical thing. That, I mean, humans have been doing that forever.
Yeah,
so I feel like that will always work.
Especially with social media. I mean, they get so many DMs every day of people like trying to spam them with tracks and stuff. They just ignore it at a certain point. So if you can make like a real connection and like talk to someone, you know, especially like having a normal conversation with them first and then being like, oh, by the way, you know, like, because some people go about it in a pretty aggressive way and that could be kind of a turn off.
Yeah, it's a lot like dating or getting a job. Like you have to like have a resume and like you need to be kind of persistent but not too persistent.
Yeah.
And like follow up. But a lot of times that like doesn't work. Like even like getting jobs, people get jobs through networking. And I think like the best thing that people could do to get, you know, noticed in their music is to like be involved in some sort of scene if you can. Not everyone like lives near a city or a scene. So like not everyone will be able to do that. But if you can, I think the fact that like we like, I don't know how it happened, but like became DJs and like went to raves and played parties and like all that stuff and like made connections with people and didn't mess them up. I think that is like, well, at least for me, and obviously I guess for you, from what you're saying, really, really helped me out.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, the people that are like serious about this stuff are going to stick around. So even if you just had a light interaction years ago, like it's cool to kind of meet the same people again or talk to them or reconnect. And that a lot of times that stuff turns into like really cool connections or like opportunities.
Yeah. Especially if you want to get your tracks signed to labels.
Yeah.
I've gotten rejected so many times by like different labels. Even like labels, like my fans have said like, oh, you'd be perfect on this label. I was like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, they don't think so. So I think my fans the label. I feel like if the people that get signed to labels usually have some sort of connection, or the A&R was just, I don't know, like it's like the luck of the draw because like I'm sure they're so busy.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about like music. Like if the music is just like undeniably good, that it'll eventually get work its place, its way into the right place. You know, like an A&R will hit it and hear it. And even though you might not be a huge artist or have a big presence, like if the music is amazing, you know, then hopefully that should be enough. But yeah, having connections helps. I mean, a lot of labels are like pretty tight knit.
They are.
And, you know, the top ones are going to hold the bar really high, like the standard. I do A&R for Cashmere's label. and there's like amazing music that comes through, and to the point where it's like stuff that it's like, man, I would like sign this to my own label. But if it doesn't like perfectly gel with their sound or their brand, or, you know, fit in, then, you know, they're probably not going to accept it. So,
and you're tasked with like keeping that quality, or that style, that like flavor of the label.
Yep. And the way they have it set up is with Cashmere's label is if you what's that?
That's a good label.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's pretty different from like the space that I work in as far as like tech house and bass house. Their stuff's a little bit more like main stage EDM, a little bit more on the commercial side, which is also cool. But the way that they do it is that they allow new producers or artists to like pay a monthly fee for like, you know, $5 or $10 or something, if that. And so that if when they submit tracks to the label, they are at least guaranteed feedback and, you know, like production help or tips and tricks on like, you know, why it didn't get picked up, or, you know, what might be good ideas. So that's what I do there, is I go through all the demos and give them feedback and kind of help them get to the right spot.
Okay. So if people want to like get signed to Cashmere's label, do they hit you up?
My mom's in here. Hi, Mom. J Merknet.
Hey, Mom, I met her one time, I think.
You did, yeah. Yeah, no, it's a cool service because, you know, a lot of them still maybe aren't ready yet, or their production isn't at like a point where it's ready to be released, but they can get help and they can like kind of figure out what to do next. And that's important with this stuff. I mean, it's so hard, dude. You know, like producing music is very hard, and it's hard to get to a professional point, let alone just like know what to do with your music. So it's a cool thing that I've even thought about doing for my label now that I started one up last year.
You started a label?
Yeah, I have a label called Spellbound.
Oh, cool. Cool.
It's only a couple months old. I put out the first track in October, so it's only been live for like 3-4 months. But it's awesome. I have, I just wanted more control with like my release schedule, and I got
DistroKid.
What's that?
Are you using DistroKid to run the label?
I'm using Seed. It's the same company that like Nightbase and those labels use. So they do like the distro, and right now they're kind of helping me out with like all the accounting and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. So wait, you are the entire team of the label, right?
Yeah, my manager helps me out quite a bit. He's the one that like kind of helped me get the whole thing set up. He introduced me with that company Seed. And you know, he's really helped me where like, you know, I might not have the knowledge for how to get it done. My manager is also the label manager for Nightbase. So like he does that stuff on the daily. So when I have like an idea or I need help, he just, you know, it's a shortcut to help me get it done, which is awesome.
Do you get emailed a lot?
What's that?
Do you get emailed a lot for like placements on the label?
I haven't really opened it up for other artists yet. I did sign a girl on a track that came out in November. She was a vocalist, so she's the first like other artist on the label. And I definitely want to open it up to, you know, start releasing other people's music. But
you know, you're still kind of
I'm getting
the fountain
going. Yeah, I'm gonna probably do like the majority of this year is still just going to be my releases, and then after that I'm going to open it up for like demo submissions.
So I love labels, but I also love being independent.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm at the point now where I could like release a track on my own and it can do pretty well. Like, or like just as good as a label. And so for me, I find myself thinking like, labels were like really useful when I was at like a smaller stage.
Yeah.
When like I feel like they're really fucking useful when you're just starting out, because it's great. But when you're kind of like at the mid tier, or whatever level I'm at. I mean, I still feel like I'm pretty small, but I could release something and it gets almost as much plays as like a lot of these labels.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, like, okay, what more can they, like, what else do you guys got for people like us? Will your DJs play out my music? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like labels nowadays need to like enter like a new phase where, because a lot of them are asking for 50%. And
at least I had a label try to ask for 75 recently. And
like, it's like this weird industry thing where it's like, oh yeah, 50% is standard. Even though like, if you like broke it down and like looked at it versus like other industries, that's like really ridiculous on the artist side. But like, it doesn't fucking matter because they have the power, and the artists, it's like the artists want their music played, so they're just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's the standard. You can't really do anything about it. And I kind of understand like the label's perspective, because it's like, well, we want to make money.
And there is a lot of work to be done. Like, now that I'm running my own label, I see that I'm like responsible for everything. So it's just like the distribution, you know, it's a good idea to have some kind of like PR company help you. Like In-Flight is huge, or Relish. Like I recently had them help me out for the last release, and it was like a huge help. And not to mention like the artwork, promoting it, it's a lot. So if you are going to do it on your own, you need to have some experience or help, and that can be tough. So like you said, like in the beginning, it's definitely good to try to work with some labels, because they're going to like bring you into their network of fans. Like that's what helped me get Shadows off the ground was Nightbase. You know, Nightbase has like a cult following, and as soon as they start putting out my music, then everyone's like, oh, who's this new Nightbase artist? And I wouldn't have had access to that otherwise. So it can help like get the snowball rolling. But yeah, at a certain point, it's like, why not give yourself the control? Like I don't like making music and being excited about it in the studio and then sending it to someone else and saying like, oh, is this like good enough for you? Or like, you know, that's such a weird part of the process. And if they do even respond or accept it, then it's like, all right, cool. We'll put this out in like 8 months. And it's like, what? Like, it's weird. So yeah, having the label and giving yourself the control is nice, at least to have as an option, because then you can still release with other labels on the side.
Do you plan on, I mean, I guess I get the idea that you're probably just going to see how it goes, but do you plan and want to like expand and grow the label and maybe help blow up other artists with your network and label tools?
Yeah. If not at the end of this year, then early next year, I definitely want to open it up to taking demos from other artists and releasing other artists' stuff. But like I said, I'm still learning so much about like owning and running a record label that I want to take some time to like really kind of work out the kinks and get things rolling well, you know, and get my releases to like into the right places before like handling that for other people, because that's a big responsibility to take someone's music and be like, all right, like, trust me with this. I'm going to distribute it. I'm going to promote it. I'm going to, you know, do all this stuff for it. It's a big task. So
big task. Yeah. I think that's a good plan. And then I guess a lot of I've seen DJs that like own labels. Like another perk of being on their label is the bigger DJ that owns it will like play out the music of like label mates, and like it becomes almost like this cool club. That's like what Mousetrap did. Like a lot of like those people would kind of be really tightly knit, and they would like play each other's music. And you liked Black Gummy, you were probably into Eddie and Nomada or whoever, you know, that whole crew. And it's probably like that with other labels that, like, I'm sure with Nightbase, like the Nightbase like heroes will like play like the newer label people and I'll help each other out. It's a good networking.
Yeah. That stuff is huge. That's like the early stages of getting a track around just so people start hearing it. I mean, if you can do that, like even a few months before a track comes out or like a month before a track comes out, just get it into people's hands and have DJs start playing it out or get it like radio placements or, radio shows or mixes or whatever. Like, and you can, it's a good track and you can get it to a point where you start seeing comments where people are trying to figure out the ID and like ask who it is and where it's from. Like that's like that early stage of like buzz that you want. It's a little hard to just put out a track that no one's really heard anything about yet because it doesn't really have a ton of like momentum behind it or hype. So
yeah,
those plays help.
It's definitely much harder to put out like singles.
Yeah.
I remember like blogs were like a big thing back in the day, but I don't think anyone reads blogs anymore.
That's where I used to get all my music. It was like Ear Milk and Vacay Vitamins and like all those places.
The song is sick, or like remember that one? Or the song slaps.
Yeah.
I actually met those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know what they're doing now. They're probably just like posting advertisements, or I don't know what they're doing.
I mean, they still do some stuff. Like I worked with EDM Identity on my last track and did like a guest mix for them. So it's still cool. It's nice to like have that support and that like presence kind of existing online. It helps things get some traction and just look a little bit more like legitimate.
That is true.
But I don't necessarily know if they like bring through a lot of numbers anymore.
They probably don't bring through numbers, but like from like a PR or publishing side, especially if you want to get verified on some of these platforms.
Yeah.
Like, have you had articles written about you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I've only had like 0.5 articles written about Social Kid. So I can't get verified on Instagram.
Well,
I don't think I can get verified on Instagram. I forget what the requirements are, but you need to have like a certain amount of articles written about you.
Yeah, but that it goes back again to like who you know and who you have helping you, because I tried for years. I would submit the verification thing with like, I had articles from Ear Milk and Your EDM and all those things, and I would submit all the requirements that they're asking for, and I would still get denied every time. And then as soon as I got this new manager, he's on red light management, and he just knows the steps to get it done. So like I reached out to him and he was like, hey, let's work on getting the label going. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm also like, I want to try to get verified soon. Just, not that it's that important, but it just helps, kind of authentic, with authenticity. But, he just like the next morning, he just emailed me back and he was like, check your Instagram. And I had a check mark. Like, he just got it done. When it's like, I tried for years, and always got denied. And then I sent him like the same things I was submitting on my own, and he just like made it happen. So it's cool. I mean, that's like it's one of those things where it's like, like what the fuck does that even really matter? It's like kind of,
it doesn't, like the people like us that are like, creative and more artsy, like who the fuck cares? Like we're just dudes, I got a fucking skeleton in my body just like you. But like I think from like a PR perspective, it's like this weird psychological thing where like if someone like DMs you and they have like a blue check, you're like, oh shit, like what's like I might give you I might be down to listen to you.
Yeah.
Although you can just like buy them now, I think. Like,
yeah.
So like I don't even know like how cool they are anymore, because
that definitely like degraded it a bit, but I don't know. It's that side of it is also like not friendly for artists, because when I was talking to my manager about getting verified, he was like, yeah, you don't want to do that because you pay like $15 a month and you have to have your full legal name on your profile. and like your picture has to be like a very clear picture that they can like identify as the same as like your driver's license. Like there's all these weird things where it's like my artist name is Shadows. Like that's my alias. I'm not going to change everything to say my full legal name. Like that's, so yeah, it's a little weird, but yeah.
It's the connections. The connections really help.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm eating a burrito. Something. But I really think the connections, the way I've like broken it down, because I have a Patreon where I'll teach. Well, I mean, it's like I do a lot on my Patreon, but like the top tier level of my Patreon, I'll like teach people and mentor them. And what I tell the people that I'm mentoring is that I believe success is based on 3 pillars. Well, I actually think it's based on 4 pillars. I need to upgrade it. But I've been saying is 3 pillars.
Yeah. And
that is the music. You have to have good music. It needs to be at least good enough to like, it's got to be at least a C plus. But obviously if it's like an A, it's going to be like way better. And then you need to have a strong brand and then a network. And then those 3 things together, if you have all those locked in, you'll be successful.
Yeah.
And then the 4th one I'm thinking of adding is consistency. That's like the hidden. It's like, so you got consistency, network, brand.
That's a big one.
Music.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to do it all, man. Like I didn't get into this 10, 15 years ago when we met and started like really grinding on it in the early days. I didn't get into it thinking like I was going to have to like make videos and be like a content creator. Like I was just obsessed about the music and really had a lot of fun with it. But it's evolved into something different, which is both good and bad.
It definitely, I think it has evolved. And I see a lot of like newer producers going ham on TikTok, or they're just like really charismatic in a certain way, and that's kind of like what you quote need to be. You don't need to be that, but like it's a very viable strategy.
Yeah,
and that's something that like I don't know if I could like. I'm not really good at making that. Like that's just not who I am. I'm awkward. I'm on the spectrum, and I'm just not that kind of.
Yeah.
I've never been really that charismatic. Which
it's hard to force.
If I were to fake it, it wouldn't work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same.
But I have gotten more into content creation still, like doing something like this, or just doing anything that like is more real, not realistic, like authentic to like how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find like what is going to work best for you because everyone's, path is different.
Yeah.
So
I think that's important for like younger artists that are like trying to break into the scene and, have their music heard. Because a lot of people will tell them like, oh, you should be making content, posting once a day. And like, yeah, like if you can legit do that in a way that's authentic, and it would be good, but not everyone is going to want to do that because you get into the game because you want to make music.
Yeah.
Like DJ, not because you're trying to be like a rock star.
Yep, exactly. And then the more you focus on that, the less energy you're putting into your music. So then your music will suffer because it takes a long time. Like I make reels and stuff, I'm putting it out there, and it takes a long time to set up, to record the video and audio for a video, have everything super clean, like it's a lot of work. And all those hours I'm putting into that is just like frustrating. It's like draining, and it's just taking away from like, I used to say this when I was like teaching a lot of peer mine, is like, you kind of have like a battery level of like creative energy. And like when it fills up, like you better use it wisely. Because it's not always there. It's not always full, and it goes away pretty quick, or it can. So yeah, that stuff is, it's tough. It's hard to be consistent with that stuff when you're still trying to make music and focus on that.
It is. And like what I would tell somebody if they wanted to do that, they would, I think like people need to get like it's all about like time management.
Yeah.
And if you could set aside like, even just 2 hours, or an hour, like an hour is like not enough, but even if you had like an hour a day in the studio, I mean, that's better than like nothing. And sometimes I'll sit in the studio and be like, fuck, I don't know what to do. I'm like not creative. But remember that my old manager that ran Torque, Bjorn?
Yeah.
He was definitely something, but like he did say something to me that like resonated, and he was like, "There's always something to do."
Oh, he always had things to say like that too. I remember when I was in a relationship, he was like, "Oh, it's not going to work, bro. You got to focus on music," which honestly, is kind of right. It's hard to balance.
He basically told me, like write a list of like, he had me like write a list of all the things I could be doing in the studio if I'm not creative.
Yeah.
And it was like we came up with this crazy list. It was like, you can organize your sample packs. You can work on sound design.
That's what I was going to say, sound design. Because sound design sometimes will also like inspire you, and then you feel creative. Yeah.
You can listen to music to get a DJ mix together. It was like a bunch of stuff that like wasn't necessarily producing, that like you should do all this stuff, and because it all matters and feeds into itself. And so you always have something to do, like a list of stuff. Like, okay, if I'm not in the mood for this, I'm not in the mood for this. Oh, I might be in the mood for this. It's almost like you're hungry. You don't know what you don't know what you want to eat. But like if someone like says enough things, you're going to know. Because sometimes I'm like, fuck, I don't want to sound design. I just want to like, I just want to, I don't know, who knows what I want to do, but
just compose, just put stuff together.
I think having that list, I've never heard anyone say something like this, but like having that list of like ideas to do in the studio, like when you're, it's like a very unique circumstance, but like there's a lot of people that like don't have that much time, and maybe they only get an hour a day. And if they just like knew like, okay, this is the kind of stuff I could be spending, I think it could really help, because time is precious.
Yeah.
I also use way more presets and samples now than I ever have before.
Yeah, I remember you used to build everything from scratch.
But and which was cool. Some of my favorite tracks I did for K Theory were like, I made like every single bass fill myself, and it sounded so cool, but it also like takes fucking forever. And
it takes
like,
so long.
I don't have much time in the studio now, so I'm just like, fuck it, like whatever. I even like put out I don't know if you heard of Excellent, but they're like a sample pack company.
Yeah.
They also do YouTube, because you got to be a content creator now for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I bought one of the sample packs, and I really liked this bass line they had in it. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to use the bass line for my track. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. Just like that one DJ did for like Nos, or like, that one famous track that used samples. I did that, and I submitted it to a label. They signed it, and it did well.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, that's what they're there for. A lot of people do that, and it's like, they're the tools we have, so we might as well use them. I like that guy's comment though. Only an hour a day daily is way better than pushing several long hours, one a week. Yeah. You get so burnt out too if you're like really in the studio for a long time. Like anytime I have like pressure on myself to get a release submitted for a deadline, and I'm like working hours and hours and hours a day, my ears just get like fried. I'm done. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like ear fatigue is such a real thing.
It really is. But I feel like just a little bit is like better than nothing.
For sure.
And I think that's like what would separate like a pro, like an amateur from a pro, is just the consistency. Because if you don't have those other stuff, like your music isn't there yet, you have no brand at all, no network, well, you could get consistency. by like just like starting from there, build consistently, going to the studio. Like say you don't work Saturday and you don't have anything to do, just an hour a day, and it's like, okay, I can do this for an hour, and then I'll go do my chores or whatever I have to do.
Yeah, especially once you start getting more comfortable, because in the beginning, you probably won't get much done. You know, if you're in Ableton or something, you might not get much done in an hour. But once you get more comfortable, and you can work really fast, and your workflow's dialed in, it's like you can almost write like a full idea of a song in an hour. So
yeah, you definitely can. I was watching a live stream of Peekaboo. Do you know who Peekaboo is?
Yeah,
bass producer. He uses so many splice samples.
Yeah,
like he just doesn't. I mean, I'm sure he knows how to sign design like a motherfucker, but like he just like would get in there and just like use like some bass sample and like manipulate it and be like, whoa, okay, that's still pretty cool. I'm not hating on the process. I love splice. I mean, that's like sped up my workflow by like 500%.
Same. I was like, I stayed away from it for a long time because I was like, oh, everyone's pulling their sounds from here. That's why everyone sounds the same. Which honestly, there's a lot of truth to that. Like, especially with certain genres that blow up, like tech house. It's like so many tracks come out that sound exactly the same. It's crazy. But I think it's best to leave like the really deep stuff or sound design or crazy processing or resampling for like a cool lead or a bass, you know. But when it comes to like building drums, you're not going to like layer up sounds to sound much better than samples that you can already get, you know. And if you do, it's going to take a long time. But there's also a lot of like variables that come into that. And I saw that a lot when I was teaching. Like students would automatically think like, okay, to get like a pro sound or like a high energy, like big drop, I need to just like layer a bunch of shit in there. And it's almost the exact opposite. It's like you need to do it with as few elements, but make sure the sounds that are there are like super high quality and sitting where they need to sit. That's like the big thing. Otherwise, it's just like cluttered and it's messy, and your mix and master is going to be a nightmare. And it's like
that's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah,
that is so true. I remember that track I made, The Wall?
Yeah, we remixed it. The Benza remix.
Yeah, I remember that. But I remember when we first played out at Ruby Sky, you like ran up to the decks and were like, whoa, what is this song?
Yeah.
Because it did really well. And it was like one of the simplest. It was basically just a fat kick drum with like a Little John sample like cut up in triplets.
Yeah.
And I think that was the drop. That was basically it.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was
everything.
It was actually really easy to mix because it was just two sounds.
Yep.
But it sounded fat as fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're right about that, like layering. Like, I mean, that's what I would thought when I was starting out, was just like layer and just like pile everything on, which is like that's like
throw reverb on everything because it makes things sound big and cool. And it's like reverb is such a dangerous tool.
Mm-hmm. That's like the Olive Garden method to like, well, what I mean by that is like when Olive Garden serves you a dish, they'll let's put like everything, like there's like all these ingredients and like it tastes good, I guess, because it's got like all these flavors. Yeah. But when Gordon Ramsay cooks something, he's like, no, guys, we're salt, pepper, butter. That's going on the steak. It's a high quality steak. Eat it. Yeah. And like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it hits way harder than like fucking Olive Garden. Just because the ingredients are so. It's I guess you need to have like really good samples too if you're doing like minimal stuff.
For sure.
That's like the ingredients. But if you like have really good samples, like a really good steak, then it doesn't need all this extra stuff. You just like let it. You mix to highlight the goods.
Yeah. I used to use that almost that same like analogy when I was teaching. It's like if you like, go to like a farmer's market, but all their produce or all the ingredients are like kind of moldy or like old, and you cook with that, it's like that's how good your result's going to be. But if you go somewhere and you get like really good ingredients, like the end result's going to come out that much better. Yeah, that's important. Remember Monte Cristo's, dude?
Fuck yes. I don't know if they're still there. I haven't been to Berkeley in years.
We used to be so obsessed with that place.
Oh my goodness. I still might be obsessed with that place.
Yeah,
I remember you would get their what's that?
The quesadilla.
Quesadilla, the pork one.
The carnitas. So good.
When they're like, they have all these crazy good sauces.
Fire. Yeah.
I might have to look them up.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're still there.
I would drive down there. Like, that would be probably like a 2-hour drive. It'd be worth it.
Yeah. Hell yeah. How are your releases coming up? Do you have anything set up already, or are you just kind of working on stuff?
I just released a collab with this underground artist named Ado on this label that I've been kind of digging called Aimed Ahead, just because they're one of the only labels that like focuses on like this cyberpunk sound that I've kind of myself into, and like my last few releases with them have done pretty good. Although I don't have any more releases planned. I have like a bunch of tracks, but like I have nothing planned because I was actually going to get more into doing, I guess, content creation. Like I'm this thing where we're chatting, getting social with Social Kid is something I used to do like a lot, but it kind of drained me. But I feel like I got it in me to do it more often. I have this mix series that I like was doing for a while, but I just brought back where like I would release a mix, like a 30-minute mix by me, and then a guest mix by somebody else. So that just came out.
Nice.
And I plan on doing more of these things where I'm talking to other producers and just hanging out.
Yeah.
And because I have so many releases, I feel like, I don't need to release that much anymore. I do have some collabs that I'm working on with some other producers that I'm definitely excited about because they're really some of these producers are like some of my favorite producers I'm collabing with.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I thought about starting my own label just because there isn't really a mid-tempo label at all, and that would be really cool. I feel like it would be really appropriate if I created a mid-tempo label. I thought Rez was going to do it with Hypnovision, but she's not for whatever reason.
Yeah.
No shade to her. She has her own agenda and free will. So like, do you, boo?
Yeah.
But like it doesn't solve the issue that I thought she was going to solve, which is like, there's no mid-tempo label.
Yeah. Well, there's an open spot for you to do it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's definitely, worth it once it's up and rolling. It's nice to have that freedom and be able to sign other people, and there's just a lot of possibilities. So it's cool.
All right. Well, I actually got to get going. Instagram Live likes to kick people off after like 45 minutes.
No worries, dude.
I don't know if that's still true. I'm gonna test that out because it'd be cool if these things can go longer. But I only planned for about this long, but it was really good catching up with you.
You too.
And
dude.
I'd love to hear some of your new music. If you want to be on my mix series, I'd love like a house mix from you. We'll stay in touch. And if people are hearing this on YouTube or whatever, you could find Shadows at My Shadows.
Yep.
On Instagram and SoundCloud and
Spotify, everywhere else it's just Shadows, but my URLs are My Shadows. So
sweet.
Yep. Sweet.
Okay, man.
Good to talk to you, dude.